ESPN pit reporter Jamie Little and IndyCar driver Alex Lloyd, who, like Dan Wheldon, is from Great Britain. And first off, we'd like to extend our sympathies to both of you this morning. We know you've lost a very dear friend. Alex, you were involved in that fiery crash. You were about 2 car lengths behind Dan Wheldon. Can you describe to us what happened?
I mean, honestly, I don't really know exactly. The most I can really see is from what I saw in the replays from my side within the car. I saw some smoke, saw cars getting together, and I just tried to slow the car down as much as possible, and you just couldn't see anything. You just saw smoke. You saw cars flying up in the air. I saw Will Power came over the top of me, and at that point, I was fine, so I jumped out of the car and tried to see if there's any other drivers that were struggling or anything like that. But the safety crews were there, and it was just really unbelievable, to be honest, just to see that many cars in that much of a mess. It was very, very scary immediately, and it's a very sad day for everybody, not just in IndyCar but in the motorsport community worldwide.
Jamie, a terrible day for you, as this is a man that you considered a friend, and you had to go to the hospital. You had to be there with his family. He's a father of 2 young boys. Give us a sense of what kind of person Dan Wheldon was.
Well, he was a great champion, but above all that Dan Wheldon was charismatic, the best personality, fun, funny, outgoing. Above all, he was a great person, and there's not a single person in this garage or single fan that could say a negative thing about him. And I think that's another reason why it's so hard for everybody to accept what happened. And yesterday, covering everything from the Infield Care Center, it was unlike anything I've ever covered. And I cover racing every single weekend. The emotions and the faces and the tears, and seeing his wife get told the news, and seeing his baby boy get loaded into the car and go to the hospital. And then I have to leave in the middle of what's supposed to be a great day of racing and cover it from the trauma center. It was just something I'll never forget. And yes, Dan was, I'm very blessed and fortunate to have called him my friend, the first driver that ever befriended me when I started covering the IndyCar series. So it's a huge loss for everyone. He always had a smile on his face, and he was just so much fun to report on every race he was in.
Alex, this morning some are questioning the safety of that track at Las Vegas. It had not held an IndyCar race since the year 2000. Should you have been racing on that track yesterday?
I don't know, and honestly, it's not something that I'm really allowing myself to think about too much right now. I think there's plenty of time during this off season now to think about what happened and discuss how we move forward. Right now, my biggest thoughts are just with the Wheldon family, Susie and the children, and just about Dan and who we lost yesterday, because as Jamie said, he was just an amazing person, and somebody that myself I've always looked up to Dan, and he just has a way of lighting up any room, and it's somebody that I've always tried to emulate, I guess. So it's more than anything about what happened. It's really just right now, it's just time to think about Dan.
Jamie, what did Dan Wheldon bring to IndyCar racing? What's his legacy?
Well, I think it's ironic, aside from the fact he's a 2-time Indy 500 champion, he's an IndyCar champion, he has some of the best friends in racing, the great days at Andretti. Now it's called Andretti Autosport. He made some great friends and great memories there, but it's very ironic that he's actually been the driver who's been testing the new car that will debut next year in March, and it's supposed to be a safer race car, and he's had a lot of time there. So hopefully that's his legacy. People look to him, who, he forwarded safety in this series and this sport. So there's a lot about Dan that a lot of people love, but we'll never forget the smile.
He is also beloved, Alex, in your mutual homeland of Great Britain, which has lost a wonderful sportsman. What's been the reaction back home?
There's been a huge reaction. I've been hearing a lot through Twitter and such things of people that that have and family that I've spoken to that are just saying it's all over the British tabloids and all over the news and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tributes out there, I think, for Dan, and they're honoring him in a great way, and I think that's going to continue over the next the next week or so. I think there's a lot of big things planned, and I know the motorsport community over there, we have the BRDC, the British Racing Drivers Club, will be putting something together as well, and I think that's fantastic. I think the more we can do to celebrate all Dan's achievements and everything that he's done for the sport, and he's done a great deal for IndyCar racing over in the UK.
Alex, how do you, as a driver, go out and do what you do when you experience the tragic reality of the dangers of your profession?
Well, I mean, this is the first time I've ever experienced anything like this in my career, and it's certainly shocking, I think, to all the drivers. And you probably speak to some of the drivers that have been around in the years when we've lost other drivers, and I think it's a very tough situation. It's part of the job. You know the risk, but as much as you know the risk, it's still very hard to come to terms with, and you still, you never really believe it's actually going to happen until it does. So it's I think we're probably all glad that this was the last race of the season, and it gives some people some time to digest everything that's happened and move on for next year. But it's obviously very tough. This is the toughest part of our job.
Jamie Little, Alex Lloyd, again, you have our sympathies, which also extend to Dan Wheldon'S family and the entire IndyCar community. Thank you for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.